We all have that one family group chat that's permanently on mute. Maybe it's because your Lebanese uncle keeps sending the same unfunny memes, or your grandma keeps replying to every single message with that same thumbs up emoji. But over time, as I got older, things started to feel a little bit different. You see, mixed in with memes were evacuation warnings, security alerts, protests, even banks collapsing. My cousins would even send me videos of streets I remember visiting every summer, which were now empty. Suddenly, that chat wasn't just background noise. It turned into chaos, and I couldn't escape. I was 12 then, and just when I thought things couldn't get any worse, the Beirut port explosion happened, and it literally blew up in my family group chat. I mean, I remember watching videos on loop, the glass going everywhere, the sound it made, the silence of it all after. Within seconds, a city that I love so deeply was left unrecognizable. Now, it was a pivotal moment in my life where my sense of normal had shifted. I realized how easily I was observing it. From my room in Riyadh, safe and distant. It almost felt wrong to know the things that the people I loved and cared about were going through, but not really knowing what it meant or what it was actually like on ground. That's when I noticed the distance between what I knew and what I actually understood. That additional knowledge made me restless. I mean, I knew about war, catastrophes, and unrest, but I never thought that it would enter my life. I felt like I had to take action, to do something. And so my friends and I started a small business where we made handmade bracelets and raised $4,000, which we sent to Lebanon in the form of humanitarian aid. And looking back at this, it reminded me that curiosity doesn't always begin with interest. Sometimes it starts with disconnection. Disconnection from what we never even knew existed. I'm not here to talk about something we've all heard before. Be empathetic and care for others. See, where I'm getting at is that empathy isn't the final goal. It's just the start. Because it's not enough to just care for others. What's important is awareness. The willingness to look a little bit closer. And that's the only thing that can turn empathy into something active. And by action, I don't necessarily mean raising $4,000. Sometimes it can be as simple as a listening ear, as choosing not to look away, sitting with what's uncomfortable, and letting it change the way you see the world. But most importantly, it's allowing yourself to think of the things you might not know, or better yet, the things you might not even know you don't know. Let me make that a little bit easier for you to understand. Now, you see this circle? This is no ordinary circle. You see this circle, I call the knowledge pie. And what's important for you to understand about it is that it has 3 main parts to it. The first one, this small piece represents all the knowledge that you know. Now, the second piece to this pie, which is also pretty small, represents all the knowledge you know you don't know, whether that may be a class you don't take or a job you don't take part in. And now you may be looking at me thinking, Houda, what's the last piece to this knowledge pie and why is it massive? Well, this third piece of the knowledge pie represents all the knowledge you don't even know you don't know. Sit with that. That difference between piece number 1 and the third massive one, doesn't that bother you a little bit? I mean, I know the first time I saw this, I hated it. You know, it felt so unfair to realize that there's so much in this world that I'll never be able to comprehend. And then I came across a theorist named George Loewenstein who believed in something called the curiosity gap. And before you get bored, I'm not trying to recite to you my theory of knowledge essay, which is due tonight, actually. Thank you, IB. Just hear me out on this. It's a simple concept. He believed that curiosity is the space between what you know and what you don't. That space, that in between, is where your mind starts answering questions and searching for meaning. And that's what I'm here to talk about today. What happens inside of that space, in between curiosity and understanding, and how it changes the way you see the world, and inevitably, the way you see yourself. Something I think about quite often is when I first started writing my IB extended essay in global politics, a subject I'm very passionate about. And you see, at first, I centered it around women empowerment in Saudi Arabia. Now, as a female who grew up in Saudi, I witnessed the changes for women firsthand. It was safe, and it was a comfortable topic for me to talk about. But you see, the more I started writing and researching, the more I realized I was getting bored. Not because of the topic per se, but because it felt like I was writing a story in which I already knew the ending of. So, I changed everything. I decided to talk about the conflict going on in the Democratic Republic of Congo. I didn't know the history or the politics. Every acronym like CNDP and M23 felt like puzzles to me, and I didn't know where to start. But you see that confusion, that disconnection? It excited me. It reminded me that curiosity isn't about comfort, it's about expansion. And that feeling of being completely out of depth, that's where growth happens. So the moral of the story is, whether you're watching a family group chat turn into chaos or turning an essay into a mystery, I realize that curiosity is the thread that connects them. It's not about closing the distance between what you know and what you don't. It's about learning to live inside of it. Because that's space, it's not emptiness. It's potential. It's what keeps empathy and action alive in a world that wants certainty, and frankly, it's what makes us human. Something else you must know about me is I used to be incredibly shy. Like, it was bad. I would practice staying present before entering a classroom, kind of shy. Yet, I always saw myself admiring confidence, thinking that it was something people were just born with. And I'm sure most of you here might have heard of the show Suits. A couple of you. Well, confidence in characters such as Harvey Specter, I always admired. The way he walked into a room like he owned the oxygen. But I never thought I could do it. Until one day I asked myself a simple question. What if I could learn that? And that simple bit of curiosity changed everything for me. Suddenly, I noticed the way people spoke, the way they carried themselves, and surely enough, my shyness through curiosity turned into inevitable confidence. If you told me 2 years ago today that I'd be standing here giving a TED Talk in front of 100 people, I would have laughed at you and asked you to say wallah. But here I am, still standing in that space between who I was and who I am becoming. Because curiosity doesn't just change what you know. It changes who you are. So here's my last and final invitation to all of you here today. I want you to think of something in your life that makes you uncomfortable or that you're just unfamiliar with. And I want you to sit with it. Sit in the not knowing. Ask a better question. Because I promise you, if you are brave enough to stay in such discomfort, it will not only change what you know, but who you become. Thank you.